Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. We begin by taking a look at a map where each circle on this map shows you the over 1,900 separate reports of severe weather we've had in the last 10 days. And certainly parts of the Carolinas and the Mid-South as well as parts of the Mid-Atlantic have taken their fair share. But I think it'd be interesting at least to share with you a couple of interesting things outside of the Southeast. First of all, Colorado back on the 13th set a new all-time record for hailstone diameter at 4.83 inch. That was a stone that fell there back on the 13th. A lot of damage there in the high plains from a lot of frequent hail recently. In addition to that, down here in southwestern Oklahoma, near a town called Altus, they measured a 93.5 mile an hour wind gust that came out of a cluster of thunderstorms. Now, why I bring this up is because we will be seeing over this forecast video that the name of the game moving forward is going to be two things controlling the weather over the Carolinas. The first thing will be a sagging front that will be moving out of the Canadian prairies and be bringing with it a near constant boundary along the line I just drew there of thunderstorm activity in the coming days. We are also bringing quite a bit of tropical moisture around a large high-pressure center sitting out in the open Atlantic that will also be feeding some moisture out of the Bay of Campeche that maybe into next week could be bringing some heavier rainfall. So let's get into it and kind of figure this one out. I want to start, though, by looking back at the most recent drought monitor that came out last Thursday. Now, this does not capture the rainfall that we got over the weekend, and certainly we added a lot of rainfall where we desperately needed it here, where we've seen persistent drought developing. But what I want you to do by looking at this map is get some perspective about other places in the country. Specifically, take a look at what's going on in parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. Southwestern monsoon has been weak and delayed. Drought still showing up here in the heart of the Corn Belt despite some heavy rainfall. And even the Pacific Northwest, where we did not expect this drought to go away, given that it's the dry season, still drought hanging on there. But the patchy drought over the part of the southeastern part of the United States may be better seen by taking a look at this map. This is looking at the top 3 feet of our soil profile, and we're looking at moisture availability in terms of percent. And you can see that across parts of North and South Carolina, but really getting into Georgia and Alabama, there are a lot of locations here that are below 40% soil moisture availability in that 3-foot profile. You can also see in the South Central Plains and through parts of the Corn Belt where things are dry as well. Now, just for perspective, out west, it's very normal for the map to look like this time of year, given that it is the dry season. But we're really trying to hone in on those places that have been exceptionally wet and those places that have been exceptionally dry. Now, over the weekend, we brought in quite a bit of precipitation. We had this lingering boundary at the end of last week on which a lot of thunderstorms formed, and then we had a tropical disturbance that kind of snuck up into this area. And along parts of coastal North and South Carolina, we picked up in some places between 2 and 6 inches of rainfall. So very, very heavy rainfall from this system. Other parts of North Carolina missed out on this entirely, but just want to show you that right there on the southeast coast where we wanted it, we got some of that rain, although it did produce some flash flooding. To put this into more broad perspective, this is looking at the last week in terms of total accumulated precipitation across much of the state of North Carolina, picking up between 1 inch and 3 inches of rainfall. And then this has taken us back here over the last 30 days. And even though you do see some places there where there are pockets that have received over 10 inches of rainfall, we still have that longer term deficit, which is what we were trying to illustrate there by looking at soil moisture and the drought monitor. I'll also point out in parts of the central United States, we have some new all-time record setters here in terms of precipitation year to date, especially in Kansas, parts of Missouri, Nebraska, and South Dakota. But our attention will be turning to how this particular map changes in the coming days. This is, again, looking at the percent of normal. So how are we accumulating this rainfall compared to average? And much of the state of North Carolina is sitting between the 80 and 120% range. So I'm talking right in through here, with pockets of drought in South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. And as you see in a few minutes here, we're going to be seeing quite a bit more precipitation moving over this area. Let's get right into that. What we're looking at here is the next week's worth of precipitation getting us out to next Monday morning. Now, overall, when you look at the European model, which is on the left, versus the GFS on the right, both of them are picking up on a wetter pattern for much of the southeastern United States. There's certainly a bit of a difference between the GFS and the European model when it comes to precipitation over North Carolina, with the European showing a little bit drier. But I'll be honest, I don't have much confidence in that, and you're going to see why in just a few minutes. So as this frontal boundary sags south, giving us this near constant chance of showers and thunderstorms over the coming days, we're also going to be watching coming out of the Bay of Campeche a surge of tropical moisture. Adding to this again is our high pressure center sitting out here funneling in moisture as well. And given that there's a front sagging into this area, that's going to be our trigger for some storms. Now I'm going to move over to a bit of an analysis on the GFS model. So take a look at this. What you're looking at here is the last 4 runs of the GFS model. I look at actually the whole of the United States, and I color code any area that's expected to get at least an inch of rain over the next 10 days with a shade of gray. But then when I look at the last 4 runs, I can stack them up, make them transparent. So the darker the gray, the higher the confidence in getting at least another inch of rainfall. We can see that even in the GFS model, potentially this area having a lower probability of picking up some of the heavier rain. But outside of that, a very wet next week to 10 days across much of the Southeast, including the Carolinas. All right. I'll go ahead and show you week 2, but I want to let you know I have very little confidence in the week 2 forecast. I have the European ensemble on the left and the GFS ensemble on the right. And why I have such little confidence in giving you a forecast out much beyond 4, 5, or 6 days is because of this. This is the flow pattern today on Monday of the jet stream. And overall, you can see how big of a mess things are over parts of Alaska, the Gulf of Alaska, getting into the Bering Sea and off the tip of the Aleutian Islands. Because of that, we currently have zonal flow across the United States. And what I mean by zonal is that's where the flow is primarily west to east. This is going to give us a more northerly storm track, so the storm track will go through Canada. And what that tends to do is just kind of leave these lingering weak boundaries that kind of press over toward the southeast on which our showers and thunderstorms form. You're going to see that in a few moments here. Certainly in the day today, though, big ridge is in place right down here, and that's going to keep the heat on across much of the south. And that's why we see when we look at our all hazards weather map that it's this section of the United States and through here that has the heat advisories and excessive heat warnings. Outside of that, red flag warning up in parts of Wyoming and excessive heat warnings in the desert southwest. But we will be seeing across much of the next several days a lot of low to mid 90s across parts of the Carolinas before some cooler air arrives toward the end of this week. Now, in terms of severe weather, much of the action is going to be away from the Carolinas. In the day on Monday, it's going to be in the high plains. In the day on Tuesday, that's the map in the upper right-hand corner. It's going to come right through the heart of the Corn Belt. And by Wednesday, take a look at this. This is the map that's down here in the bottom. And you notice that this area is clearing out. And if I kind of draw a line like that, you can see I can connect the severe risk that's in the Northeast with the severe risk that's in the central United States. That is the frontal boundary that will be moving in this direction, coming toward the Carolinas, giving us a near constant chance of showers and thunderstorms. Animating out for you the next 60 hours here. This gets us out into middle of the day on Wednesday. We can see again, if we watch it throughout the day today, getting into tonight, widely scattered showers and thunderstorms. Okay, there's still a frontal boundary stretched right in through here. Widely scattered showers and storms. After that, we're going to watch for storms to actually blow up here and parts of South Dakota. And you see them moving through Iowa. Why am I talking about Iowa? Well, these storms, as they come through, could help trigger storms that go through parts of the Mid-South, which includes Tennessee and Kentucky on Tuesday afternoon. And the remnants of them may make their way over here to far western North Carolina by the time we get into the overnight hours on Wednesday. So I want you to watch out for that. Outside of that, though, just a general risk of scattered showers and thunderstorms. Okay, take a look at what the dew point temperatures are going to do here. This animation shows you dew point temperature anomalies. So drier than normal shows up as the blue colors. Wetter than normal in terms of moisture content shows up in the warmer colors. Now, as we get out here towards Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday evening and then Wednesday morning, here comes the major frontal boundary that's going to sweep through toward the end of this week. Until then, hot and humid conditions persist. But as this sweeps in toward the end of the week, that's that drier air by Friday that should be pushing down. There it is, Friday into Saturday into the Carolinas. So see that? Now I'm going to step you back. Until then, ring of fire. See it right there? The high dew point temperatures all along the leading edge of that front, showers and thunderstorms. The European model will detail this out for us a little bit better here. So let me just get you right to this point. Watch it again with me. There we go. This gets us out to Tuesday morning. Now on Tuesday morning, look, widely scattered showers and storms Tuesday through the day. We're going to be watching the cluster coming through Iowa toward the eastern Corn Belt, toward the Mid-South. Now, by the time I get you to Thursday morning, the low pressure center is sitting here in parts of Ontario, and then look, Quebec. And then look, you can see the frontal boundary dragged right through here, and that's what's going to be bringing in Thursday afternoon into Thursday night. This is now Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Friday evening. Look at this, just round after round of showers and thunderstorms moving through the Carolinas toward the end of this week. And that main frontal boundary is just sitting right in through here. In fact, watch, as I keep playing this out through your next weekend, you see storms continue to show up on that U shape. See it right there? And that's what keeps us for the next several days in this general risk for showers and thunderstorms. Let me get that drawing off there and show you something else I'm watching. I'm going to step you back here, and I want you to see this cluster of showers and thunderstorms moving into the Louisiana coast by next weekend. That pulse of moisture could potentially move its way up into the Carolinas early next week, giving us more moisture with which to make our thunderstorm activity. So this is looking all the way up to next Wednesday. Even though I told you I don't have much confidence in it, certainly can see that pulse of moisture interacting with this frontal boundary getting into our area. So again, what's the name of the game? Almost every day, 30 to 50% chance of showers and storms as that front sags through there. It's going to be widely scattered, hit or miss, because the boundary is weak, but that's the main story that I want you to see. Now, as we progress into a bit of a longer range forecast and shift our focus over towards temperature, so far since the 1st of June getting through middle of August, we have featured high latitude blocking over Greenland and Alaska. Let me show you what this has done. Come over here to Alaska. The graph that you're looking at here in the upper left-hand corner shows you from the start of the year to the end of the year what our high record temperatures are, what our low record temperatures are, what the normal range is, that's this color here, and then the blue bars that go up and down, that is the daily highs and lows. That ridge over Alaska has kept parts of Fairbanks away from any temperature getting into the colder side of things, now working on about 90 days. That same pattern for Raleigh, North Carolina is down here. And we can see that this pattern has allowed for, more often than not, warmer than average temperatures. Because where's the cold been? It's come through parts of the Canadian prairies. Where's the cold been? In the Canadian Maritimes. That was why we've seen at times near average to above average temperatures over the southeast. If we keep this particular pattern in place into fall, why I'm bringing this up is we often can get the colder air getting much farther to the southeast. So even though we've spent much of the summer on the warmer side of things, we could be seeing a transition into fall where we have a better chance of getting some cooler weather. Now, we have already seen throughout much of this spring and summer, we are much above average on the accumulation of growing degree day units. That's what we're seeing here, the growing degree day unit anomaly from March 1st all the way through the 17th of August. But look at the temperature patterns and how they might change. This is watching an animation of the flow of the jet stream, getting us all the way out to the end of August and the beginning of September. I see that with time, ridging is trying to build in the Gulf of Alaska, ridging off the East Coast, and the trough that's in here, well, look what it's doing to temperatures. Certainly over the next several days, this is days 0 through 5, we're hanging on to our warm bias. So what does that mean? A lot of low to mid 90s. Here's that front that's coming through, such that by day 5 through 10, and now the heat's back west and we slide into normal temperatures, maybe even at times slightly cooler than average. Does it hang on? Well, according to the European model, getting you out here to the end of August and the first few days of September, yeah, the heat stays west and the cooler weather comes down into, well, all the way down to the Gulf Coast. And I can see that the GFS is in agreement with this. So the heat we're seeing now, we have some relief coming by way of that front that we're moving through, and then the cooler weather tends to hang around for a while. In fact, it may even hang around between the 3rd and 10th of September as well. That's when we really see the heat staying out here and the cooler anomaly sneaking through all the way to the southeast. So that's an important temperature difference we've seen compared to what we've had for that much of this summer. What are the tropics doing? And we'll go ahead and finish up here when we talk about the tropics. In terms of instability, the tropics have been far less unstable. They've been more stable throughout the season so far. So we're way behind in terms of accumulating tropical cyclone activity. We've also seen much above average mean sea level pressure here sitting in the central part of the Atlantic Ocean. This is the two things plus the dust that's really helped suppress the tropical season so far. We did have that system that moved through over the weekend. We're going to be watching it kind of just moving on offshore. Nothing really concerned about there. And you can see that over the next 5 days, not much is being seen by the National Hurricane Center coming across the main development region. They've got it dry. But you do notice that when we stretch this out all the way to the 15 days, I told you I was going to watch something here that might sneak up into this area, coming into Louisiana, maybe bring some of its moisture up to the Carolinas. Not a hurricane, but just something to be watching, a tropical disturbance. And finally, we can see a bit more activity coming off the west coast of Africa. See this area and through here starting to light up with more precipitation? That's the beginnings of what we need to be watching. So this particular animation, we're seeing where the models are picking up on the development of low pressure systems coming off the west coast of Africa. As we move now into the month of September, more organized systems coming here into the middle part of the Atlantic. What we want to see happen, let's just keep the big ridge in place so any systems that do form curl around it here. But we are going to kind of wake up the tropics as we move into the end of August and beginning of September. Remember, the peak in hurricane season is September 11th through the 15th. One last thing I want to finish up with here. I just want to give you this snapshot here. This is the year-on-year change in the Global Vegetative Health Index. It's a satellite-derived product. Wherever you see colors, and I'll just pick South America, wherever we see colors like this, the Vegetation Health Index looks worse than it did a year ago. And wherever you see colors like we see in the Western United States, that's where it looks better than it did a year ago. I just want to show you this, tell you to pause the video, take a look at it, just to kind of see globally where we have better or worse conditions compared to a year ago. But that was a lot to take in. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up right here. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions and at the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina want to thank you for your attention. Have a great week, and we will talk to you again next week. Thank you.